Alrighty, hello and welcome to AP World History. My name is Mrs. Alice, and I am going to give you all a brief overview of what AP World History is. We're going to start by talking about the different parts of the AP exam. Then we're going to talk about the 6 time periods. And last, we're going to talk about the 5 themes. Alright, so let's get started. First up is the parts of the AP exam. The AP exam consists of 2 parts. The first part is the multiple choice, which is 50% of your score, and it consists of 70 multiple choice questions, and you have 55 minutes to answer them. One of the major changes that was made to the AP exam last year was that they added a lot more passages, which made the time crunch. You have to answer 70 questions in 55 minutes, which is less than a minute per question, and then with the added passages. So we are going to spend a lot of time this year analyzing primary source documents and using them to answer multiple choice questions, so you can do those in a timely fashion and answer as many of these questions as possible. The second part of the exam consists of the essay portion. It is also 50% of the score, and it has 3 different types of essays. The first essay is called a compare-contrast essay, in which you are going to discuss similarities and differences between 2 civilizations during the same period of time. The key to this is you have to discuss both similarities and differences. You cannot choose one or the other. You have to balance it. The second essay is called a change over time. During this essay, you are going to be looking at one civilization and how it changed and stayed the same over time. Just with the compare-contrast, with the change over time, you cannot just talk about changes. You also have to talk about what stayed the same. The third type of essay is called a document-based question, or DBQ. During this, you are going to be given a prompt, and then you're going to be given a series of documents. You are to use those documents to answer the prompt. You can get anywhere from 7 to 10 documents that you are to use to answer the prompt, and the prompt is either a compare-contrast prompt or a change over time prompt. Most students say that this is the easiest essay to write in the end because the answer is given to you in the documents. As long as you can analyze the documents and find the answer, it's there for you. You just have to learn how to analyze them, which we will spend a lot of time working on this school year. All right, next up we're going to talk about the 5, which it's really 6 periods. I forgot to change that. They also changed it from 5 to 6 periods recently, so it's actually 6 periods of AP World History, not 5. And they're determined by 3 criteria. The first criteria is the geographic rebalancing among major civilizations. This is the rise and decline of civilizations. 2 is increase in intensity and extent of contact across civilizations. So talking about things like trade routes, expansion, war, exploration. That's about it. And the third one is the emergence of new and similar developments in all civilizations. We're going to talk about this happening very early in AP World History, because we're going to talk about the rise of agriculture, which occurred in 3 different civilizations independently of each other. They had no contact, yet they all developed agriculture around the same time. All right, so the first period is the origins of civilization, also known as the foundations period. This lasted from 8000 BCE to 600 BCE. If you're not sure what BCE means, it means before the Common Era. And then we have CE, which is the Common Era. They replaced BC and AD because those are based on a Christian dating system, and not everybody on Earth is a Christian. And so it was thought to be more applicable to all people. The major focus of this is the rise of agriculture, so going from nomads to settled agricultural civilizations. We're going to look at the emergence of civilizations in Asia, Africa, Central America, and Southeastern Europe, and we are going to go over the River Valley civilizations that you guys learned a lot about last year, so we're going to do a brief overview of those. All right, period 2 is the classical period, and it's going to last from 600 BCE to 600 CE. Its major focus is civilizations develop a new ability to integrate large regions and diverse period. The classical civilizations are going to rise and expand, and they are going to encompass people from different areas, and the big focus is how do they integrate them into their larger civilizations. So we're going to look at Rome and Greece and India and China. Next up is period 3, and it is 600 CE to 1450 CE. So 600 CE is at the fall of the classical empires, and then we're going to learn right up until the rise of the Age of Exploration. The major focus of the post-classical is commercial and cultural links that brought civilizations into contact because of the interaction with nomadic groups, and again, the decline of the classical empires and the rise of new centers of civilization. So, for example, the fall of Rome and the rise of the Byzantine. Period 4 is the world shrinks. It is 1450 to 1750. The world shrinks is a metaphor for the fact that global contact is going to increase, and therefore the world is getting smaller because contact is increased, but it's not actually getting smaller. It's still the same size. We're also going to look a lot at trade here. We're going to talk about Columbian exchange and triangular trade and all kinds of interesting things. And we're going to talk about the formation of new empires, especially those of the Europeans. When we talk about the West in history, we're talking about Western Europe. And then later, after the establishment of the United States, they get grouped in with Western Europe. Or we do. All right, period 5 is industrialization and global hegemony. So it's the rise of the Industrial Revolution, and hegemony means the domination of one group by another. So we're going to talk a lot in here about the domination of the West, and we're going to talk about imperialism, so the imperial takeover of South America, Africa, and Asia by European powers. All right, and the final period is period 6, which is the 20th century in world history, and that's 1914 to the present. 1914 is the cutoff point because that is when World War I is going to begin. During this time period, we're going to talk about the shrinking of those Western European empires. We're going to learn about World War I, World War II, the rise of new political systems, especially socialism and communism. Talk about the Cold War, economic innovation, and finally the rise of Japan and the Pacific Rim. When we talk about the Pacific Rim, we're referring to countries along the Pacific Rim, but more specifically, countries in Asia along the Pacific Rim. All right, last bit is the 5 themes. The themes are important because when we look back at those essays, the essays cover comparing and contrasting or changing and staying the same, and a lot of times they're looking at specific themes. So they might ask, how did the political system stay the same, or how did the gender roles stay the same and change, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically are going to learn about all of these different civilizations through all of these different time periods by focusing on these 5 themes. It all connects. All right, so the first theme is interaction between humans and the environment. We're going to look at things like demography and disease. Demography, if you did not know, is the makeup of the population or changes in the population. We spend a lot of time during this period talking about migration and patterns of settlement. So people moving from one place to another place, etc., and then the rise of technology over time. Second one is development and interaction of cultures. We're going to look at what makes a culture, how did that develop, and what specific things make up the culture in these different areas. So you're going to look at things like religions, philosophies, ideologies, arts, architecture, belief systems, and science and technology. All right, so that's themes 1 and 2. Theme 3 is state building or empire building, you can call it that. So it's the expansion of these different empires and the conflicts that may have arisen because of them. So during this, we'll look at the political structures, the types of government, so anything from theocracy, democracy, monarchy, absolute monarchy, constitutional monarchy, communist, etc. We're going to look at the different empires, nations and nationalism, revolts and revolutions, and regional, trans-regional, so between 2 different regions, global structures and organizations. 4 is the creation, expansion, and interaction of economic systems, and we'll start talking about that very early when we talk about the rise of agriculture, the rise of surplus, which leads to trade. Trade and commerce, so trade routes, how trade happens, how trade expands, commerce meaning when this trade gets to the point where it's no longer between, say, people or small groups, it's between large companies. Labor systems, anything from serfdom, feudalism, slavery, the Industrial Revolution has a lot to do with labor systems, so we'll talk about labor unions, capitalism, and socialism. All right, and then we have the last and final theme, which for some reason, I've tried this twice, it wants to be halfway in and halfway out of the frame, but it'll work. 5 is development and transformation of social structures. So this is where we're going to be talking about gender roles and relations. We're going to talk a lot about patriarchy, which is the domination of society by men. We're going to talk about why that happened and why it has stayed the same. Family and kinship, types of family, types of relationships between like clans. Racial and ethnic construction, so things like the caste system and the Latin American social structures. And we'll talk about social and economic classes, which will have a lot to do with communism and things of that nature. So I hope that this helped you to kind of get a better understanding of how AP works, what the exam is going to be about, and then the different time periods and the different themes. You need to make sure to view this video several times or just use the PowerPoint, which is posted on Blackboard, because you will have a quiz on this next week. But right now what I want you to do is to click on the Google form, which is under this, posted under course materials on Blackboard, and fill in that Google form. It's super simple. I just want you to let me know any questions you have, and it is anonymous. So please feel free to ask your questions. I won't know who asked them, and neither will anybody else. And a lot of times you may have a question, you might not think it's very smart, but there are a lot of other people out there that have the exact same question. So there are no questions that aren't worth getting answered. So please go and fill out that form. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it. And oh, go Herndon, go Herndon. All right, see you later.